Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Exploring Windows 11 and AI Readiness. Today, we have an awesome speaker for you, John Gastaldo, Partner Management and Alliances Manager at Insight. And before we begin, I do want to go over a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your audience console are multiple application widgets that you can use. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can submit your questions in the Q&A box, and they'll be answered during and at the very end of the presentation. You can also expand your slide area by clicking on the maximize icon on the top right of your slide viewer. And if you have any technical difficulties, please click on the help widget for assistance. At the end of the webinar, there will be a short survey. And if you can please take a moment to fill that out, that would be great. Oh, sorry about that. We will also have multiple poll questions throughout the webinar. And if you're able to answer all poll questions, you will be entered into a special giveaway for a $300 Amazon gift card. That's on top of a chance to win one of 5 Amazon gift cards just for joining today's event. So don't forget to answer those polls as they pop up, but I'll let John take it away from here. Hope you enjoy the webinar.
Thanks so much. Greatly appreciate it. So we have our agenda for today. We're going to take a look and focus on what's coming up with Windows 11, how the operating system is going to be changing, a timeline that's going to be coming out for Windows 10 end of support, all the benefits that we see from making that change sooner rather than later, as well as some different tools and offers that Insight has that we can help you to get the most out of your devices, make sure to check on your fleet, and understand what's coming up and how you can incorporate new devices. Lastly, we'll shift into some upcoming benefits about next generation AI PCs and how they can have a big impact on your organization today. So starting off with that operating system piece, focusing specifically on Windows, wanted to outline what's going on today and why upgrading is going to be pretty important over the next 18 months. Starting first with Windows 10 end of support. That is going to be in October of 2025, giving you about 18 months now to get ready for that transition. And as we take a look at the market today, we're seeing about 33 million devices that still don't meet the requirements to upgrade at a hardware perspective to Windows 11. Now, a lot of these devices are coming from the pandemic buys that a lot of our clients purchased in order to get more hybrid work ready as everybody was pushed home. So with this refresh, and with about 35% of the workforce still working from home, which has been greatly expanded, we're seeing that these devices are going to meet that same kind of supply chain constraint that we saw in 2020 and 2021. So with that large amount of devices that are going to be refreshed and us talking to our clients still and helping them analyze their fleet, we see about 20 to 40% of clients still have that amount of devices in their environment that don't meet those hardware requirements. So it's a real easy message that I'm trying to help our clients understand today, which is know what devices can't upgrade to Windows 11. And let's make a plan between now and October of 2025 to refresh those devices. Because come October of 2025, those devices will not receive their basic level of readiness for patches coming up. And then lastly, we're going to take a look at what's coming out for on-device AI coming up. If you've been paying attention to any of the leaks so far, we see a lot of new information coming from a lot of different manufacturers and processor manufacturers about what we're going to be able to do with AI on new devices. So jumping into that Windows 10 end of support. it is October 14th, specifically to that date. And we are still seeing about a 30% adoption rate now for Windows 11. And we have two important dates that you want to pay attention to, because a lot of the devices that are currently in market are still on the Windows 10 21H2 release. So that is actually going end of support in June 11th of this year. And then you'll have to move to Windows 10 22H2 to get to that October 14th of 2025 date. And again, once you lose that end of support and those patches, that provides that basic level of security to your end users. And this is really a big deal now that more of our end users are outside what we would call the four walls of their premise-based network. And those patches really provide that foundational security piece to those people who are working primarily off-net. One more view of this is really, what have we been doing as your partner to help understand where we are in these different moments from Microsoft on potentially when you need to be upgrading and when it will affect your organization. So we're now at the tail end of what we were trying to do with our Insight Get Ahead of the Curve campaign with all of our webinars over the last 6 quarters talking about this similar topic. Today, we're really focusing in on what's going to be happening in the future and starting to shift into gear around what's going to be happening with Windows 11 specifically on modern devices. So we know that now that we have Windows 11 has been released in the market for a little while, it really is coming up as being a really great, secure and productive operating system for end users. We've seen, especially for myself, now that I have the opportunity to use some of the different Snap features on the desktop when I'm doing presentations like this for clients, and being able to move my screens around and having them automatically drop in are some of the really nice features that are for our end users in the environment. One of the little things that I didn't know I couldn't live without, especially around a productivity feature, is being able to have tabs in my File Explorer. And that was something that just kind of natively comes along with Windows 11. And some of the better things are cloud management, cloud delivery for applications, and streamlining that into modern management. And these are all of the things that we want to help you as our clients to understand about what makes Windows 11 better than Windows 10. And fundamentally coming back to the topic of, well, if we've got Windows 10 deployed today, how do we transition to Windows 11? And Windows 11 being right now on hardware that meets the requirements, it's just released as a feature release update. There's no large migration that needs to be planned now. So really right now is going to be the easiest time to transition en masse from 10 to 11. And you have enough runway with that 18 months to start really taking a look at it now before Windows 10 end of support. One of the nice things that Microsoft has tried to do is still continue to give everyone enough runway to be able to take advantage of Windows 10 for as long as they need to make that transition as seamless as possible. And so they have announced that there is a Windows 10 extended support update process that if for whatever reason you really can't get off Windows 10 by that October 14th of 2025 date, you can buy support, extended support for an additional 3 years. But it does cost you. And so when we take a look, and we're using an organization of roughly 4,000 users with 3,000 devices, Windows 10 devices, that cost does add up. So it would be, in our opinion, better to roll that cost in for that extended support into just new hardware. You're going to get better battery life, you're going to get better processing speed, and if you do have end users who we're going to talk about a little bit later who are looking for AI capabilities, you're going to get that too. So consider Windows 10 end of support is that last ditch Band-Aid. One of the things that I did want to include in here is the links to all of the information as stated here. So some of these slides, you'll see it's pretty dense, but we're doing that a little bit on purpose so that after you've attended this webinar, you have access to all of this documentation so that you can start going through it yourself. And with that, we're going to transition into our first poll question. And that is, what does your current Windows 11 migration plan look like? So taking into consideration that you have until October of 2025, 18 months, really the foundational process for release rings and support from Microsoft, have you been taking a look at the Windows 11 schedule and what you need to do to roadmap it out? Or is there still more planning that you need, especially referenced in question D here? Plan? What plan? And we'll definitely be able to help you with that as we move through this presentation, specifically this next section. How can we help you with Windows 11 readiness? I'm taking a look at the poll. We are going to close it pretty quick here. We only have about 18% of our attendees voting on this. So again, in order to win those gift cards, please take the time, do your best to answer these questions in here. These are going to be extremely pertinent, especially when you see some of the next poll questions coming out as we talk about free workshops and potentially demo devices. So we'd love to get you on the short list for those, and by answering these poll questions, that's how you can get access to those relatively quickly. Okay, I'm about to close the poll here as we move on to the next section. And that next section is we're going to talk about what can we do now that we know the timeline. We have 18 months left. What can we do in order to get ready for Windows 11? And specifically, we're going to talk about what you're potentially doing for a readiness check on if you're not cloud managed yet. You know, I don't use Intune. I don't necessarily have any other management solutions within my network. And so Microsoft has made available some readiness scripting. It is through PowerShell that can help you deploy, help you analyze your hardware. Again, these slides are going to be a little dense, and that is to give you the deliverable after this webinar to go and look through that implementation of that scripting to see how you can get it into your network. We also have a readiness workshop that I'm going to be speaking about, which will help you go through this information. So again, this is a little bit dense. It does link out to a couple different places, and we're more than happy to walk you through this process. So here are some different prerequisites that potentially of using that scripting, how you get it out into your environment, either using your PowerShell scripting through a domain controller, through System Center Configuration Manager, and then we're going to actually also take a look at the output of what this gets you. And so this it's a pretty dense output. It goes through specifically which machines, why they can or cannot update to Windows 11. And really the big one here is that TPM chip. Really, it's a kernel level execution within Microsoft that Microsoft fixed with TPM 2.0 and really that 1.2 just isn't as secure as they would like it. So getting to that TPM 2.0 with a new processing chip is really what most of the customers, when they take a look at their hardware, makes it so that they can't upgrade and requires them to refresh the device. And this is all the hardware readiness scripting that can be deployed and without using Intune or really the Work From Anywhere report that's built into Microsoft's tools. That's that last piece here, that if your devices are already being managed by Intune or already being managed through Endpoint Analytics, this is step-by-step process of how you can go through and capture that report on your environment. And really that should be a pretty easy way to start building that short list of devices that need to be refreshed. Nobody wants to be that person who's got to go to the powers that be at their organization and say, hey, it's May of 2025. I need another 10 to 15% in my endpoint budget because we have to refresh, 15, 20, 30, 40% of our fleet. So just don't be those guys and gals that take that to your leadership. Really get ahead of it now. And with that, we wanted to touch on one of the ways to ingest devices really pretty easily into your environment if you have Intune and Entra ID is a process called Windows Autopilot. And Windows Autopilot is a zero-touch enrollment methodology. I'll do what you're not supposed to do, and I will compare two different competitors, Microsoft and Apple. Zero-touch enrollment was really made famous by Apple. When you get an iPhone, you would have your applications and your data on it. When you bought a new iPhone and you plugged in your Apple ID, all the information from your old device to your new device just moved over seamlessly. And that was that commercial experience. Well, and then Microsoft saw that and said, that's pretty awesome. Now hold my beer. And they made a professional version through Windows Autopilot. And they did what Microsoft normally does, is they made it really customizable for system administrators to come in and really make application packages, user identity, accessible and downloadable at zero touch with a little bit of front end work that you got to do to get it ready, but really kind of open it up, made it pretty extensible for organizations to use and really customize it to their methodology and practices. And Insight is an autopilot partner. And that autopilot process that we provide basically comes in two flavors. The original flavor that Microsoft released was, you can get a device from anywhere, you pull a hardware hash off the device, and then you upload that hardware hash to Intune, and the device automatically starts to provision once that end user logs in. Now, I wanted to go through kind of what that is in comparison to the legacy experience. So what you may have seen previously or have today is, you got to go through all these steps to get a device re-provisioned or set up in a manner that's necessary to be secure and ready. One of the major hurdles when I was doing desktop support is at some point we always had to ask for the end user's credentials when we redid an end user's device or got them a new device. And when you're talking in larger organizations or organizations that have a lot of compliance requirements, if you have a leadership level credentials, you may not want to be giving that out to everybody in your organization. Or if you're part of your legal team, that credential to start to repurpose that device or get it reset up, and if you're resetting that or giving it to someone else in your organization to reset your device, or just having to reset that password can be a pretty big hurdle. Autopilot moves past all of that and really makes the process that much faster. And so when we were going through that legacy experience with organizations, it was taking them 22 to 45 days in order to deploy devices or refresh devices. Now, using Autopilot, we can significantly cut that down. And when you're working with Insight, if you set up potentially some inventorying being done with our team, then we can get devices, put them on the shelf for you so that they're ready for when you want to use them. And working with our team, we can do some enablement around whatever ITSM platform you're using. We have a lot of integrations with ServiceNow. That's why we have it up on this part of the presentation, where if you just kick off a request, we can take that device that's going to be new. We can take it from inventory or what's potentially just available in stock through our e-commerce experience on our website. And then we can automatically take that information that we're getting from either distribution or from the seller of the device, and we can take that and we can put it through and upload it to Intune. And we don't have to physically touch the device, unless it is coming from inventory, then we would. And we can put it into your environment, again, just through an API. We're not harvesting a hash here. And this helps get the device into your environment that much faster. And we could let the device provision on your network, just send it out directly from distribution or from our warehouse directly to your end user, or we can take it into our lab and keep the device in our lab to do that pre-provisioning. That way, when the device gets to your end user, it's got way more already provisioned on it, still through Autopilot, but just everything's already been downloaded to the device. And this helps in situations where you might be giving it to an executive. So you don't want to have that executive wait the 45 minutes to 3 hours for that stuff to come down when it gets sent out to them at home. So you may just want to send it out to them quick. Or if you have end users who, for compliance requirements, need to have that device be more ready, we can definitely take that into our lab and make sure that you're meeting your compliance requirements by having that device pre-provisioned in our lab. And that takes about 3 days. So here's just that overall value around that Windows Autopilot deployment, how it kind of affects each individual piece of the enablement process, enrolling it, getting the devices, and this is across the board, everything that you kind of need to know about Autopilot enrollment from a prerequisite perspective and where we can intervene at each in basically each silo as we get that device ready to be sent out for you. One of the great things here is we do have this complimentary Windows 11 and Autopilot Readiness Workshop. So this workshop is everything that I just talked about, helping you to look and analyze your environment, see which readiness process is going to be most beneficial for you. As far as, do we have to do it through scripting? Do we have access to Intune? Are we on set up on SCCM? How do we get that readiness script out into our environment? And then if you have the prerequisites for Autopilot, well, then how do we create the base configuration of Autopilot? User groups, device groups, and use Autopilot to ingest the devices that you already have in your fleet so that we can do that readiness reporting. And as you saw before from those screenshots, once those devices are in Intune, it's basically just a click. I click here, I get the full report. So our team has dedicated time to go through this with your administrators and help you figure out what works best, no matter where you are in your journey from premise-based management to cloud management. And we will do this again. It's a complimentary workshop at no extra charge. And this normally takes about 2 to 3 hours. So I highly encourage you for this next poll question, let us know. If you're interested in this workshop, answer the poll. Let us know where you think in your organization you're ready. Do you want to do the workshop, which is just solely focused on Windows 11 readiness? Do you want to have it include that autopilot portion as well? Include both topics? Or if you're not interested, feel free. Hit D. You'll still get participation here within the poll. And for those who do answer A, B, or C, we'll be reaching out to you after this webinar, and we'll get this on your calendars to help your administrators take advantage of that readiness assessment. At this point, we're looking at about 20% of attendees have responded. We're going to keep it open for a little bit longer. Please, again, select which option is best for you, and we'll be following up with you after this webinar. Okay, looks like there are still some responses rolling in. I'll leave that. Okay, looks like we got all the responses now. So when we take a look at Windows 11 readiness, that TPM 2.0, that's really a function of the processor. And for the last few years, that's really been the driving factor. I want to be able to secure my devices. And Windows 11 has proven to be a good tool for that. Well, now there's something new on the horizon for our Windows devices and what our silicon providers are doing to help make these devices more productive. And that's really everybody's favorite buzzword right now. It's AI. So right now in the market, you actually have devices that are capable of running AI workloads. And so we've taken this new performance measurement, and it's referred to as TOPS, which is a tera or trillion operations per second. And that's basically the benchmark that we use that says, have this device, it does X number of TOPS. It's similar to how we measure the processing capabilities of processors in gigahertz. Or when you look at a GPU, and you're looking at cores on the GPU, CUDA cores. Well, now we have this TOPS score for processors. And in some circumstances, it's a holistic score. It's what a CPU, a GPU, and with newer models of devices, an NPU can combine to holistically give you what the desktop device can produce for AI workloads. So over the last 2 generations, basically, you would have a CPU and a GPU that would combine processing power to get to about 10 TOPS. Now with devices, that was devices that you may have had over the last 10 years. New devices within the last 2 generations may have a VPU or an NPU or a sectioned off piece of the chip that is dedicated to producing these AI workload processes. And devices currently in market can do up to about 30 TOPS. Well, as with anything, we're seeing a shift. And now we need more processing power on the edge to support AI workloads from different ISVs. And we see that this is the pretty standard way that technology comes to market. When you think back to computing originally, it's all done on a mainframe. All your processing power lived in the cloud as part of that mainframe. Then we had personal computers, and that pushed a lot of the processing power out to the desktop. Well, now when you have a new workload like AI, all that AI processing is done in the cloud. But that cloud processing at scale is expensive. Microsoft spent ungodly amounts of money training their AI models in their data center, so that they want to push that processing power and utilize the processing power of new devices in order to basically offload that cost onto the device that you're already buying. And that should eventually make sure that the cost of AI is going to come down, because it's going to be living on the device. And then any data that this AI workload is going through is also being secured by workloads on the device. And so we see that this is the normal give and take process of, as things come to market, they're normally done at scale in a cloud and then pushed out to the endpoint. And so that's what's happening now with the next generation of AI devices. And we're going to be seeing some information come out pretty quick here by the end of the month that, and you may have already seen some leaks come out from different providers, and you've already seen Lenovo with their Qualcomm chip and Surface with their Qualcomm chip being able to hit these 40 TOPS numbers, which is really that next generation device that meets this 40 TOPS requirement. And so this 40 TOPS requirement is really about the NPU. And that NPU 40 TOPS number is going to be driven to as what is going to be required in order for a next generation device to really hit and be sustainable at the edge, so that as a fundamental level, ISVs can control, and when they say we've got an AI workload, that the device at the edge meets those requirements. And this is always a little bit of a chicken or the egg thing. If you don't have the device that supports the AI workload, then ISVs aren't going to make it. But if you don't have the software capability that actually is the workload, then the hardware provider is saying, well, I don't have any programs to run. So we're seeing that right now over last year into this year into next year. You're going to see tons of AI capability come forward, really around that 40 TOPS number of being the basic bare minimum to run an AI workload pretty seamlessly for an end user. So now, again, this next poll question, as more and more and more of these AI workloads, or excuse me, AI capable devices come out, again, we've already seen some releases that have hit in the last few months, specifically with Surface and their Qualcomm chip. We're going to have even more devices from Intel and AMD. And so we're wanting to get in front of you and ask, are you interested in testing these Windows 11 devices? And we're going to be making devices available through multiple means. A lot of them are going to come through different trial device programs that you may only get to use the device for a couple of months or 30 days. And so we do want to know, because there is going to be very limited supply of these devices coming to market this year, who is really interested in getting a hold of these devices. And if you've been keeping up with what Qualcomm has released with Surface, you'll know that that potential device is an ARM device. It's not an x86 processor. That is also going to may produce a couple different hurdles. Not getting too deep into it, there is some different emulation pieces where potentially that device, we don't believe it's going to be a hurdle between x86 and ARM emulation at an application level. And you should be able to get that ARM Surface device and those other ARM devices coming to market pretty quick, and they should just work. But we understand that as IT administrators and organizations, it's not 100% true all the time. So again, we want to make sure that you get the kind of devices that you're looking for. So we do appreciate the participation in this poll. I'm going to move on to the next one. And this is really about which manufacturers. So the previous question was about what kind of processor. This question is, from what manufacturer would you like to take a look at? Really, we know that the Microsoft Surface and the Lenovo devices through Qualcomm and ARM are going to be coming to market pretty quick here based on the announcements that they've already made. And we might be able to see those as soon as the next few months. However, every manufacturer is going to have their own AI devices. We know that. They're all going to want to compete with each other. So again, we're looking to work with you and just create that short list. If you know that you need to replace a set of devices by October of 2025, you're going to want to split that into two categories. Who needs a regular device? Who needs an AI device? Who can help me test ARM? Who needs to stick with x86? And we just we make this as frictionless as possible for you, getting you the right devices into the right hands in order to test these and get what you need for your organization. Now, moving into, as I said, not all organizations are going to have access to or need AI because maybe you don't know how to use it. Well, one of the great things that you've got access to already today that uses AI is Microsoft Copilot. And that's right now, again, living in the cloud, and potentially with what's coming up with these new devices, we're waiting to see how much of that's going to move from the cloud to the device. But we know that there is, this slide did not get transferred into the program very easily. So some of this writing might be harder to see. What it's mentioning is that there is about 80%, about 70% of people surveyed said that they want AI and they want it to be able to use it to enhance what they're doing. And about once people get AI, we see about a 10 to 20% increase in productivity from them. And finally, people have said if they don't get access to AI with their current employer, then they will try to change employers in order to get to an employer who has adopted AI. So to help reduce all of that churn, we're trying to get in front of that and say, how can we help our clients let their end users use AI securely to see that increase in productivity so that they know that their employer is taking a responsible look at this and moving forward. They don't need to go anywhere else. We've got it covered. And Insight can help and be that partner to help you move forward to adopt AI. And so we have two different solutions around Microsoft Copilot. We've tried to make these as scalable as possible. And so, unfortunately, this engagement is not complimentary. These are paid engagements with our services team to help you adopt AI workloads. It does come in two pieces or two options. First, we try to make it as low cost while still providing the enablement that you need for about $5,000 in that first workshop. And then if you already know that your organization is pretty much committed to figuring out your use cases for AI and you just want to get there, there is another engagement. It's a fast start. It's about $35,000 to really help your organization understand how Copilot can make a specific difference today, right out the gate, so that you can get the licenses, get it deployed, start seeing those productivity increases. And again, there is more information, a part of those 2 QR codes that once you get the deck, you can immediately take a look at those web pages that go and have more information about both of these offers. If you already know which of those 2 offers you would like to move forward with, please, again, take advantage of this poll. If you would just like to know more about any specific offer, one over the other, please, again, put that information in this poll here, and our team will start reaching out to you after this webinar to help get you onto that right track. And we are seeing some submissions here, so we do appreciate it. Again, both of these offers are being made. They do have a cost to them. These are not complimentary. But again, you answering here, we'll just get somebody on the phone with you to talk you through it, make sure it is something that you really do want to move forward with. Again, just looking to help everybody move forward with AI to the best of their ability. And with that, that is the last piece we wanted to cover today. I do want to open it up now. I know that there have been some questions coming through in the chat. I'm going to take this opportunity to take a look at those as we wrap up. Feel free to ask any additional questions that I may have not covered through the presentation. Either myself or the team here will get to those questions as soon as we can. And again, we'll have the team start following up with you. We're always looking for any additional feedback. We do hope that this information brought to you today is important and really starts meeting your needs. If there's something else that you'd like to hear about from our team that has to do with devices, Windows 11, autopilot readiness, Copilot readiness, we're more than happy to jump in and take that feedback as well. Give me 1 second here while I take a look at the Q&A. We do have different training programs to help leverage AI features that will be covered in part of that Fast Start. As part of that Fast Start enablement program. Depending on your Microsoft agreements and training credit hours, depending on what type of agreement you have with Microsoft, Microsoft is a Fast Track enabled partner. I do know that there is some AI enablement under that Fast Track program. I do know that there are different ways to help decrement those credit hours apart from just moving forward directly with that Fast Track program. So we can help with those different means as well. Josh, I think you did grab that one as well. There was a question in here that Josh answered about the readiness scripting. The PC Health Check app, it's kind of easy to deploy. From my understanding, it's easy to deploy like one device at a time, but then the scripting can take a look at your entire environment. And I do appreciate you grabbing those questions there, Josh, around ancillary devices. Autopilot does specifically work for Windows devices, Windows devices only. So there was a question in here about pre-provisioning require users to be local admin. It's a great question. I don't know. That's where I would say I will punt that one off to Josh as part of the workshop. So Brandon, I would definitely encourage you to reach out to, or we'll definitely reach out to our team about that workshop and get that question answered for you. Juan, your question there on the autopilot configuration. Yes, so that's part of our provisioning process. When the devices do go through our lab, we will hold the device on our bench until it's fully provisioned. That, in order to use our labs and our bench to do that, it's not a free process. So that's where we have, again, those two options. One, we'll upload the device. We'll send it directly to the end user. The end user will wait for that profile to download, or it can go to our bench where those profiles will be downloaded.
It looks like we have a lot of questions in the Q&A section. If you want me to read those off to you.
Sure, we can take those too.
Yeah, Aiden wants to know, what strategies and tools does Insight recommend for seamless data migration from legacy devices to new Windows 11 machines?
So a lot of those are going to be configurable through Intune and different policies for applications. So for doing like document migrations and that kind of thing, you can configure a lot of that to just move over through Microsoft's cloud. Apart from that, it's a great question for other applications or data management. That we'll have to get more specific with our data management team, because they're going to know a lot more about any other third-party processes and tools than I will.
Awesome. And then Paul wants to know, while computing devices meet the requirements for installing or operating Windows 11, what additional resource requirements are there for some more of the demanding AI functionality in Windows Copilot, etc.?
So TBD. So that it should be coming soon. There have been some leaks. Like I was reading an article on Tom's Hardware that kind of mentioned the Windows 12 hardware requirements, which I can definitely say there's not going to be a Windows 12, but I think some people were cross-pollinating potentially what was labeled under Windows 12 requirements as being for a next-gen AI PC requirements. So we are still waiting for some finalized information to be announced from Microsoft on what that will look like. But most specifically, it's going to have to do with that TOPS score for AI PCs and that 40 TOPS requirement. Am I understanding that question correctly? I hope I am.
I think so. And then Amelia wants to know, are there any specific security considerations businesses should address when migrating to Windows 11, especially regarding potential vulnerabilities with older devices?
Absolutely. So the big one here is that TPM 2.0 requirement. That's why Microsoft is basically saying move to new hardware. Because the 1.2 TPM version has some basic flaws in the underlying hardware that, like, they've been patched everywhere and every which way. However, there will still always be vulnerabilities. And that is why Microsoft made that hard TPM 2.0 requirement for Windows 11 specifically, to basically just leave that behind. Apart from that, there's always going to be new security and events that target that older technology, target those older configurations. I hope that answers that question. And if it doesn't, we do have some elves in the background answering these questions, and we'll definitely follow up more for you too.
Great. And then Emily wants to know, what specific security features are offered through Windows Autopilot and Insight's management solution to ensure the ongoing protection of devices?
So Autopilot itself is just the ingestion methodology of Intune and Entra ID. So it's basically just one workflow. For any security pieces that can be configured on an ongoing basis, you're going to be looking to the underlying technology. What can Intune do to secure the device? What can Windows Defender or Defender for Endpoint, excuse me, as a license add-on do to secure the device? What is Entra ID P1 and P2 doing to secure the device? And so we do have a security and compliance team that does work with our customers to help understand those tools that are in Intune, in Defender for Endpoint, in Microsoft Cloud, in even Microsoft Sentinel as part of an Azure workload, integrating all of that into a SIEM. But you're really going to be looking to the base tools, and Autopilot is just that provisioning methodology. But we have resources and offers available to help organizations go through that. If you would like to know more, we can definitely have our team reach out to you about those things as well.
Thank you. And then another question from Emily, how can we ensure that all necessary data and applications from legacy devices are successfully transferred to the new Windows 11 devices? How can we minimize disruptions to productivity during the transition process and ensure a smooth migration for all users?
Absolutely. So one of the great things, specifically about Autopilot, is because Autopilot's available for both Windows 10 devices and Windows 11 devices, so you can do that now. And the Autopilot process, again, will work on both. So if you have want to go through today and say, okay, this is what our Windows 10 devices look like, this is what our application packages look like, this is what our device group and user group packages look like today, then you can redeploy those applications to like a test group on Windows 10, and make sure that everything that the end user needs is delivered through Autopilot. And then once you ingest a new Windows 11 device or do that Windows 11 upgrade and you ingest that device through Autopilot, it will then push all of those same policies and applications that were available on Windows 10 to Windows 11. And so you can use that Autopilot provisioning process to kind of fill that gap of what's available on Windows 10 devices and Windows 11 devices, so that it mirrors both sides of the fence in order to make sure that those user groups have the same experience. I don't know if I'm 100% answering that question specifically the way that you asked it, but that is the way I would use the tools that I was given as an administrator to make sure that all of the things I needed come over correctly. And then apart from that, we can jump into individualized scopes of work if there are custom line of business applications or anything really nitty-gritty that doesn't live in a more general cloud to help you do that migration.
Awesome. Chris wants to know, how will Windows 11 handle integration with existing enterprise applications and legacy systems that might not be optimized for AI features? Are there potential compatibility challenges or limitations to consider during device refresh?
Yeah, and sorry, read that first part for me again, because I want to make sure that I got it.
Yeah, how will Windows 11 handle integration with existing enterprise applications and legacy systems that might not be optimized for AI features?
Okay, so this is really two questions. One is, how does the migration look for moving from Windows 10 to Windows 11 and making sure all my stuff works? And then with what's going to be released coming soon for AI workloads on Windows 11, how is that optimization going to look? So addressing the first point, Windows 11 is really just a reskin of Windows 10. Like, besides the security features, everything else from an application compatibility standpoint from 10 to 11, pretty seamless. This is not the experience that we had moving from Windows 7 to Windows 10. It's nothing like that. Like, that was a whole 4 years of my life that I never want to go back to. And so Microsoft actually has come out and said, and are willing to put their money where their mouth is, because they believe it's not such of a big lift. They've released their application compatibility guarantee that if you have something that's running on Windows 10 today and you move it to Windows 11 and it doesn't work, you can escalate to Microsoft and they will assign a application development team to come in and help you get Windows 11 ready. So once Microsoft does something like that, they're doing it for a reason, because it's not that, it just shouldn't exist. So they're willing to come out and put a big rubber stamp on it that says it's not going to be a problem. Now, with these AI workloads and having applications customized for AI, again, we're in that chicken or the egg standpoint of we're working with about 70 different ISVs that say when these AI applications hit the market, they feel that they're like 100% ready. And you're kind of looking at the top names on that list, like Adobe, and what Adobe's doing with their cloud, that when they push a button, it generates AI. Right now, that's happening in the cloud. How much of that can be pushed to the device for the device to do that AI propagation? Still unsure. Again, that's what we're in that same boat of, we need these devices in market. We need all our ISVs to jump on and start utilizing that processing power, and then we'll get a better understanding of how to optimize it. And then I said there's about 70 ISVs that believe they're going to have something ready to go right now and between the end of the year. There's another about 300-ish software integrators or software vendors, I should say, that are going to have something that they say pretty quick, being able to take advantage of that 40 top score on the device. And again, some of this may be pulling back to their cloud, or it may be on device generation. So that's the way I would approach those two questions.
Thank you. We'll try to get through as much as we can here. We have about 30 more questions for the next 5 minutes, but we'll get back to anyone that we're not able to answer right now. Aiden wants to know, with increased reliance on AI, what security measures does Windows 11 offer to protect against potential vulnerabilities or data breaches within AI-powered workflows?
It's a great question, which I have a feeling that Microsoft knew was coming. So within the last week, Satya at Microsoft, their CEO, released their security plan, which was basically everything that we're going to be doing around AI, around any other applications, all needs to be done with a security first motion, and with that in mind. So we see that that's a huge pillar of what Microsoft is doing, not only for the Windows operating system, but for their cloud applications and for Copilot. To answer that question specifically, the Microsoft 365 E5 stack of all of their Defender for everything, information protection, endpoints, the identity, their cloud applications and services, they do a really good job of integrating all of that information protection into those security features. And then they take it to that next level within Microsoft Sentinel to then alert and report on it and make that operations process and orchestration even better. Again, we do have specialists here that are way more knowledgeable about those topics, but that is something that if you really want to dig into that, that'll be part of our AI Fast Start. Is helping you to understand what data, where you have it, how it's labeled, how it's secured, how your endpoints are secured, how your cloud's secured, to make sure that no matter what you're doing with AI, only the right people have the right access to it.
Great. I have a question from Bev asking if you can explain how Insight's device management offering integrates with existing Microsoft Endpoint Manager or other third-party management tools organizations might be using?
Absolutely. So we do have a Microsoft Endpoint Management solution, and it's a service. It comes in multiple flavors, but there's two. There's Insight Flex, which is a device as a service offering, which helps organizations operationally manage devices. And then there's actually a full-blown endpoint management solution that we offer on top of that. So it just depends on what you're talking about. I have a feeling it's skewing more towards the second piece of endpoint management. And we do have a practice that helps with VMware for VMware management with and their Workspace ONE, as well as Intune. How can we help you configure Intune and integrate with your teams to manage devices through Intune? And then we also have a Jamf portion of that built into our endpoint management service. So that basically, no matter what people are using, whether it's a Microsoft product, a third-party product, even for things like Jamf and Apple, we can get that integrated into our endpoint management solution. And then there's also the legacy Microsoft tools like System Center that we can build into those management plans so that you can get a holistic approach. But again, Workspace ONE, VMware's Workspace ONE, Intune, and Jamf are the predominant pillars of our endpoint management solutions.
Awesome. And then I have a great question from Chris again. Beyond basic device management, does Insight's offering provide additional security management features like endpoint protection, intrusion detection, or data encryption for enhanced security of AI-enabled devices?
Correct. And so depending on what you want to do, for better or for worse, Insight, we make all of our stuff as flexible as possible. So some of the things that you've mentioned could land in separate services from Insight. So we have our endpoint management solution, which is predominantly going to take advantage of the services that are built in on device. What is Windows doing for notifications and security? And how is that alerting? And how are we going to work with you to manage that? Then you can layer on additional security services. And I know we have an endpoint security service. Again, depending on what you're using, whether that comes from a Microsoft solution, a Sophos solution, a Cisco solution, whatever, to secure that endpoint, we can manage it for you. And then we also have other security solutions that go more to the SIEM level, whether that be Azure Sentinel or like a Taegis product, to give you that reporting and alerting down through encryption to security events, and then some AI optimization around the reporting of those things and automatic remediation. So it's going to be a little bit of a segmentation in offers, but we basically have something to implement at each point, depending on how holistic you want the solution to be.
Perfect. Thank you, John. I think we're at time here. For anyone whose questions we didn't get to, we'll be sure to reach out and get you some responses there. But thank you.
Again, we very much appreciate you joining us today. I hope everybody who was interested in taking part answered those polls. That will definitely help our team follow up from this webinar to help you specifically answer your questions. So we do really appreciate the time. Everybody stay safe and happy. Thank you so much.
All right.